The Curse of the Crimson Tide, Chapter 1, A Legend Worth Dying For. The crimson tide sliced through the waters of the Spanish Main, her blood-red sails billowing against the salt-heavy breeze. The sea was restless today, waves clawing at the hull like hungry hands. At the helm, Captain Reyna Redblade Valdez stood with her boot propped against a crate of stolen Spanish gold. She was lean and sharp as the cutlass at her hip, with hair the colour of a burning sunset. She turned her gaze toward the mist-covered horizon, where Isla Perdida lay hidden like a secret, whispered among ghosts. "Captain," said Jonas. Deadshot Kane, her grizzled first mate, rubbing the scruff on his chin. "Ain't too late to change our minds." Reyna grinned. "The time to change our minds was before we left Tortuga, Kane." He scowled. "They say the dead walk on that island, guarding a jewel no man should touch. Then it's good that I ain't a man." The crew chuckled, but the laughter died as the lookout's voice rang from the crow's nest. "Sails off the port bow!" Reyna's stomach twisted. Through the spyglass, she saw the dark shape of the Revenant, a black-sailed galleon cutting through the sea like a shadow given life. Her lips curled in irritation. Captain Sebastian, Black Viper, Graves. Chapter 2. Captain Sebastian Graves. Sebastian Graves had once been a privateer commissioned by the British Crown to hunt pirates, but power had twisted him, and soon he had become the very thing he was meant to destroy. Now he was one of the most feared pirates in the Caribbean. His face was angular and sharp, with piercing dark eyes and a cruel smirk that never quite reached them. His long black coat trailed behind him like a shadow, and at his hip rested his infamous white serpent-hilted saber or a weapon rumoured to be forged from cursed steel. His obsession was treasure, not gold, but power, and the eye of the abyss was power beyond imagining. As the Revenant drew closer to the crimson tide, Graves stood at the bow, hands clasped behind his back, watching Reyna's ship like a predator stalking its prey. "Redblade," he murmured, the ghost of a smile curling his lips. "I knew you couldn't resist the lure of Isla Perdida." Beside him, his quartermaster, a pale man with sunken eyes named Isaac Crow, shivered. "The sea is uneasy," Crow rasped. "The closer we get to the eye, the more it stirs." Graves turned to him, eyes narrowing. "Good." Then he raised his hand. "Cannons, fire!" Chapter 3. The Battle at Sea. The Revenant's broadside shook the crimson tide like an angry god's fist. "Return fire!" Reyna shouted. The roar of cannons filled the air. The smell of gunpowder, thick as fire, streaked across the sky. Splintered wood and torn sails flew as the two ships clashed like titans on the high seas. Then the boarding hooks came. Graves' men swung across, landing on the crimson tide's deck in a storm of flashing steel. Reyna cut through them like a whirlwind, her cutlass slicing a deadly arc. Then she saw him. Graves stepped onto her deck with practiced grace, boots clicking on the blood-stained planks. "Redblade," he said, mockingly tipping his hat. "Graves," she spat, raising her sword. They circled each other, blades gleaming. "You don't know what you're walking into," he said, lunging forward. Reyna blocked, twisting to counter his next strike. "You always did enjoy a good ghost story." "This isn't a story," Graves sneered, forcing her back. "The eye isn't just treasure. It's a key to something older than the sea itself." "Then maybe we should leave it buried." Graves grinned darkly. "Now, where's the fun in that?" Their swords clashed in a flurry of sparks until a massive wave of unnatural force erupted from the mist-cloaked island. The ocean churned, pulling both ships toward Isla Perdida like a hungry beast. Then they heard it, a deep, guttural voice, speaking from the abyss of the sea itself. You have come to steal what is mine. Chapter 4. The drowned god awakens. The ships were dragged onto the shore by unseen hands. The mist parted, revealing the ruins of an ancient temple overgrown with vines and covered in strange, writhing symbols. The eye, Graves murmured, stepping forward. At the temple's heart, bathed in an eerie blue glow, lay the eye of the abyss. A sapphire the size of a man's fist, swirling with something alive inside. Reyna grabbed Graves' arm. This is madness. That thing wants to be found. Then let's not disappoint it, he said, breaking free. As he stepped onto the altar, the ground split apart. Something rose from the depths, a monstrous figure clad in barnacle-encrusted armor, its face a mask of coral and bone. Its eyes glowed with the light of the abyss. It was Takal, the drowned god, a being older than the world, once imprisoned by ancient sorcery. Fools! It thundered. The sea takes all! The dead rose from the sand, skeletons draped in rotting pirate coats, their hollow eyes burning blue. The crew fought desperately, blades flashing, pistols roaring, but the drowned god was beyond mortal strength. Graves, obsessed, reached for the eye. I am power, he roared, before the sapphire melted into his hand. His eyes burned with abyssal fire, his veins blackened, and a monstrous serpent of water erupted from his chest. Reyna, horrified, grabbed the pistol at her belt and aimed it straight at Graves's heart. I'm sorry, Sebastian. She fired. The bullet struck the eye, and a shockwave of ocean fury exploded outward. The island trembled. The sea itself rose in a tidal wave, swallowing the temple whole. The last thing Reyna saw was Graves, his face twisting in agony as the drowned god consumed him. Chapter 5. A Pirate's Gamble. The crimson tide barely escaped the maelstrom that devoured Isla Perdida. As the storm faded, Deadshot Kane groaned. Tell me we got something for all that. Reyna, drenched and bruised, reached into her coat. A second, smaller sapphire gleamed in her palm. She grinned. The sea takes, but a pirate always takes something first. As the crew cheered, she turned to the horizon. Graves was gone, the eye was gone, but somewhere beneath the abyss, something still stirred. And she knew this wasn't over. The end for now.